Hi, I'm James Kolander of the Kolanders of Desert Mountain. Today I'm sitting on the beautiful patio of the Club Villa at Desert Mountain. Here we're sitting on the 18th fairway and green of Chiricahua, and I have a very special guest today. His name is Bill Shetker, and he goes way back to the good old days of the origination of Desert Mountain. Bill, tell me and our viewers a little bit about your history.
Well, I studied architecture at the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. While there, we worked as apprentices for Taliesin Architects. And the very first project I worked on while there was Desert Mountain Properties. Actually, prior to that, I worked on Desert Highlands. So we did all the land planning here. And through that relationship, eventually, I became an employee of Desert Mountain, where I went on to become the Senior Vice President of Development and oversaw the design and construction of pretty much every home Desert Mountain ever did.
So it's fair to say you're Mr. Desert Mountain.
It would be fair to say that. Some have said that.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it. Now, I have some questions today. We're going to do a little tour of this fabulous club villa. I think the first place to start is where we are sitting right now. Now, this wasn't originally here with the house, was it?
No, it was not. When we originally designed this house, we actually had just finished designing Chiricahua Clubhouse. And we had 3 lots here on this parcel where there are now 2. We decided that was a little too dense, so we subdivided the middle lot, creating 2 lots. We then built lot 238 and 240, which became known as the Club Villas. When we built this particular house, we wanted to take advantage of the city light views, the fairway views, and to a much lesser extent, the green views. And so this terrace that we're sitting on now didn't exist in the original concept. The original buyer of the house, because we had done it speculatively, immediately said, "Gosh, Bill, I love this little patio over here, but I have to stand here and drink my coffee in the morning to watch the green." And he said, "Is there anything you could do?" And so we designed this octagonal patio, which now, as you can see, takes full advantage of the views of the green as well as the fairway, and of course, summer sunsets, winter sunsets, city lights. I mean, it's really, quite honestly, probably one of the greatest views in the project.
And you can actually watch them tee off, hit their approach shot, and putt out
The entire
all from
hole.
this spot.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned the clubhouse, Constantino's. I noticed the design elements are very similar. Now, did that just flow through and carry through from your original concept of the clubhouse to the club villas?
Yes, it was a very intentional intent. As you played up Chiricahua, this is such a dynamic hole, and as you're playing up towards the clubhouse, you want it to have a tremendous impact. What we didn't want to have happen is not control the environment. And so while we had these lots here, we could have sold them as custom lots, but we wouldn't have the control the same as if we had developed them. And so we made a conscious decision to say, what if we designed 2 really grand houses? And in the design, we will control the aesthetics of the house so that it appears as though it might have been a little hillside village. Clubhouse being the primary residence and these 2 homes adjacent to it being part of that overall community. And so it had a tremendous impact on the design of the home. Okay, so the design of this house is based on an agrarian type of architecture, almost a rural style of architecture, meaning that a farmer could have built it. And to do that and to accomplish it in a realistic, honest approach, you have to follow through in all of the details. As an example, this wall reads as a big, thick masonry wall. Well, that wall has to be supported by a beam above. Most people would put a beam on either side, a soffit, and kind of fake it. What we did here is have literally a stack of beams that are then held together with an iron strap to make it a believable application so that it truly reads as though it's carrying the weight of a 2-foot thick stone wall above.
So Bill, tell me about this beautiful open floor plan.
Old world architecture is typically very compartmentalized. We didn't want to do that simply because it doesn't accommodate today's lifestyle. And so what we wanted to do is still achieve this agrarian concept, but make it an open flowing plan. Imagine a barn, if you will, with great big open space that has now been subdivided into different areas. As an example, from this great room, as you look in, you look into the foyer of the office in the master bedroom. You look up into this entry foyer where the grand stairs goes up. You have this space above where one space bleeds to another. The continuity of the great room ceiling that goes into the loft space above where the game room is. So it was all about the continuity of space, both on a horizontal plan, so from a plan point of view, but also a vertical component. So all the spaces bleed into one another, creating what would be considered a very contemporary plan, but in an old world setting.
So Bill, tell me about this kitchen, great room, open space.
This is, in fact, a great room. People recently started building just simply one great room, which consists of a family room, breakfast, kitchen. In a house like this, what we did is design it such that we have, as I said, a great room, meaning those 3 spaces, but we also have the formal living room, dining room. The idea being that you can have 2 events happening simultaneously, each with its own interest. As an example, if you were entertaining adults who had children, the adults would be in the great room or the living room space, which bleeds into the game room, the bar, great entertainment space, dining table. Children could be in this half of the house where you have the family room, the breakfast, the kitchen, doors out to the swimming pool. And so you have 2 opposite functions occurring at the same time with no interruption.
Can you tell me a little bit about this transitionary space? Because it has a very interesting feel.
You know, it's funny you would mention it because it should have an interesting feel. This originally was outside space. What we did is enclose it when we added a couple of casitas that I'll talk about in a moment. But one of the things that I'd like to point out is, again, the concept of making the architecture believable. Here we have this 2.5-foot thick wall. If you look up above, you have a stack of beams that shows this massive structural element that holds up this wall. It creates a very believable architecture. But as I mentioned, this originally was outside space. What we did is, from the main house, there was a detached garage, and we had this stone tower that was here for nothing more than an exterior pergola space. We took advantage of that and built in 2 additional guest suites off of this. And so now what was once outside space becomes inside space. Once more, as I mentioned, this once was exterior space. When we enclosed it, we wanted it to remain exterior space. So you have the stucco from the original house still on the walls on the interior of this room. In the original design of the house, we had utilized a divided light window and door system that was typically in keeping with old world architecture. We changed that to be an operable panel door that allows you now to open the entire space